Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Queenie clenched her jaw and held up her phone. Fine. I'll be the bigger person and post your scandalous behavior to both our family's chat groups. Everyone will know about the two of you. Leslie, quick, take her phone away from her. Don't let her post anything. Bonnie exclaimed in fear. The man leaped out of bed at once and charged over to Queenie without caring that he was only clad in his underwear. He was determined to snatch Queenie's phone away, so she rushed for the door. Get her. Leslie, the woman behind them, commanded. Queenie had just started running when she realized her grave mistake. She should not have worn heels. She fled around the corner and heard a door opening. She flew into the room without hesitation. The man inside the room was caught unaware and she ended up bashing him in the forehead, which sent him stumbling to the ground. Queenie hurriedly shut the door and stood with her back against it. It was then that she realized there was a tall, young man in a gray shirt lying on the ground. He sat up with a wince and continued to groan in pain as he clutched his forehead. Queenie hastened to mutter her apology. I'm so sorry, sir. Are you all right? The man looked up at once. The soft morning sun had lit up the room, but the man's expression was dark and stormy. There was a noticeable red lump on his forehead which looked extremely out of place on his otherwise flawless, fair face. Do I look like I'm all right? He got up from the floor and his towering frame made Queenie, who was leaning against the door, gulp. He was so tall, 6 feet and 1 inch. She felt pressured. Just then, a woman's voice came in from the corridor. Did she escape? What should we do, Leslie? Queenie immediately clapped her hands together and stared at the man with pleading eyes. She looked like a kicked puppy. Let me hide in here, please, it'll only be for a moment. Just a short while, she begged before pressing her ear against the door to hear what was being said outside. Ha! If she dares to post it, I'll make her pay, a man growled viciously. How did she get the card to our room? Isn't this supposed to be the best hotel in the city? I want to file a complaint. Once the voices were gone, Queenie finally sighed in relief, but when she turned around, she realized she had yet another problem on her hands. A problem in the form of a handsome man who had a swollen forehead thanks to her. He was glaring daggers at her. Let me take you to the hospital, sir. However, he merely pointed at the door and commanded icily, get out. Yes, right away. Queenie replied before scurrying out the door. At the same time, the man's phone started ringing and he picked it up. Hello? Mr. Manson, the meeting has started. I'll be right down. Nigel replied. He took a deep breath. Who could tell him what the deal was with that rude girl just now? The senior executives of Manson Group were all gathered in the hotel's conference room on the 8th floor, and the one seated at the head of the table was Nigel Manson. It had been 2 years since he first returned from studying abroad, and now, he was a lot more dignified and reserved. Everyone was staring at the man at the head of the table whose forehead was red and swollen, and they all voiced their concern. What happened to your forehead, Mr. Manson? Mr. Manson, I think you should go to the hospital. You might be left with a scar if you don't treat it right away. Who had the ball to injure you right here in the hotel, Mr. Manson? Nigel exhaled and instructed his assistant, Andrew Knight, bring me some ice. I'll be fine once I ice it down. A woman barged into my room this morning which led to me banging my forehead against the door, but I won't pursue the matter since she's a guest here at the hotel, Nigel explained with a huff. You'll need to be more careful next time, Mr. Manson. I've heard that a lot of young women from wealthy families stay in our hotel just so they can bump into you, one of the managers said with a grin. The others began to join in as well. I've heard about that too. Mr. Manson is one of the most eligible bachelors in town. All these young, wealthy ladies are racking their brains to find a way to marry him. Nigel was beginning to get a headache from all their chatter. He slammed his hand down on the table. That's enough. No more chit-chat about things that aren't on the agenda. Let's start the meeting. All the others in the conference room immediately sobered up and focused on work. In the past, it was not unusual for them to crack a joke or two during meetings with Nigel as the chair, but now that he became a lot more stern and intimidating, the executives no longer felt they could be as casual about it. Meanwhile, the concierge received a call from someone with a serious complaint. It was a woman who claimed that someone had pretended to be her to get an access card to her room. It was a serious breach of privacy, and the woman demanded that the hotel apologize and compensate them for it. The receptionist looked into it right away. The manager on the morning shift came and questioned the two receptionists who were about to go off duty regarding the complaint, and the receptionists were confused as well. Isn't the woman in the red dress today the same woman as the one last night? She said that the main key card was with her boyfriend, so she wanted to take a secondary card. That's right. We're sure it's her. It was a very pretty woman who looked like she came from a wealthy family. Yeah. We wouldn't have mistaken her for someone else. Just then, the security staff had managed to look into the security footage. The manager and the receptionists gathered in the meeting room to take a look, and their jaws dropped. They saw a young woman and a young man entering the room arm in arm the previous night. The woman in red had only arrived this morning, but she and the woman they saw from the previous night looked exactly the same, even down to their hairstyle. Oh my! How could there be two people who looked so similar? They must be identical twins. It doesn't matter what their relationship is. The hotel needs to take responsibility for this, so be prepared to make your apologies, the female manager announced sternly. Hang on, isn't she going into Mr. Manson's room? You're right. Goodness me. She barged into Mr. Manson's room. What is she trying to do to Mr. Manson? Do you think she wants to harass him? Soon, they saw a man stepping out of the room with a dark expression. The look on their usually charming and elegant president's face made it seem like he had been harassed. How could she be that shameless? Was she purposely trying to find an opportunity to sneak into Mr. Manson's room to seduce him? The female manager cleared her throat. That's enough. It's not your place to be gossiping about Mr. Manson. Get back to work. At the same time, two luxury cars came to a stop outside the hotel lobby. An elegant, matronly lady rushed out of the car with 4 bodyguards in tow. She was hurrying into the lobby when she got a call. Hello? Yes, I'm here. Don't cry, Bonnie, I'm here now. Don't worry. Queenie won't dare to do such a thing. I promise. Mom, I don't want to live anymore. How am I going to ever show myself again if everyone in the family sees that video? I've only been back for a year. How am I going to hold my head high after this? The young woman wailed into the phone. Don't do anything silly, okay? Wait for me. The beautiful, middle-aged woman quickly pressed for the elevator. Once she got into the elevator, she dialed another number, but no one picked up the phone. The woman was red with fury. As soon as the elevator doors opened, she rushed to the presidential suite and opened the door. Bonnie rushed into her arms and cried her eyes out in great despair. It's all right, Bonnie. Don't cry. I'm here, aren't I? We'll find a way to resolve the matter involving you and Leslie. Mom, I couldn't grow up beside you, and I'm not as good as Queenie at making you happy. I'm not as likable as her either. I don't care that she has everything and I have nothing. All I want is to be with Leslie, and I'm happy as long as I can be by your side. I don't care about anything else. You silly girl. You will get everything you deserve. Your dad and I have owed you too much for the last 20 years. We won't let you suffer in any way." Bonnie's teary eyes twinkled smugly. "Queenie Silverstein, sooner or later, I'll chase you out of this family. The entire Silverstein family fortune will be mine." "Mom, did you manage to call Queenie?" "She's not answering her phone, but she didn't release the video either. I'm guessing that she's gone into hiding, but I'll find her and take her home." "Mom, I don't want to let things slide so easily after Queenie pretended to me in order to get the access card to our room." "What do you want to do?" The woman, Maggie Elmhurst, was a little taken aback. "I want the hotel to apologize and compensate me for it." Bonnie bit her lip. "I won't let anyone push me around anymore." "All right. The hotel should take responsibility for it anyway." "Look at how pale you are from the fright," Maggie exclaimed as her heart panged for her second daughter. "Mom, can you find Queenie first? I'm so worried that she'll expose my relationship with Leslie. Leslie and I will be mocked and criticized for getting together before his engagement with Queenie is called off." "Don't worry, your dad and I will take care of your matter with Leslie," Maggie assured before taking a card out of her bag. "Here, there's $150,000 in this bank card. Go ahead and treat yourself. Don't feel bad about buying your clothes from luxury brands. Our family can afford it." "Okay, I will, Mom." "I love you," Bonnie said before hugging Maggie. This money was thanks to the show she put on last night. She had worn a cheap outfit and paraded it in front of her mother last night, which led to the hefty allowance she received now. "I'll go and check with the hotel to see if Queenie has left yet." Maggie went off. As soon as Maggie left, a man stepped out of the bathroom. It was Leslie Payne, Queenie's fiancé. "Did Mrs. Silverstein leave already?" "My mom went out to look for Queenie. We'll get the hotel to take responsibility for this and make a police report as well. It'd be best if she gets locked up for a few days," Bonnie hissed through gritted teeth. The man wrapped his arms around her affectionately and said, "You've suffered so much because of me, Bonnie." "Nonsense. Being with you is the best thing that has happened to me ever since I came home." Leslie smiled and kissed her forehead. The two women had the same face, but Bonnie had a seductive air about her, while Queenie was nothing more than a pretty face. She was stiff and unromantic, and she did not let him touch her. Leslie had intended to spend the night with her at a hotel, but she declared that she would not sleep with him before marriage. All Leslie could think was, "I'm not a priest. Why do I need to stay celibate?" 3 months after their engagement, something major happened. The Silversteins' long-lost twin daughter had been found and was brought back to the family. Now the Silversteins had another daughter, one that looked similar to Queenie. Leslie had seen for himself how the Silversteins shoved Queenie to the side and showered all their love and attention on Bonnie. He was even more surprised to find out that Bonnie fell in love with him at first sight. During a family gathering half a year ago, Bonnie had gotten drunk and kissed him. Ever since then, they had been in a secret relationship. He wanted to break off his engagement with Queenie and marry Bonnie instead, but before he could bring it up, Queenie found out about his affair, and this morning, she stormed into the room like a raging lunatic and took photos and videos of them. The engagement had not been called off yet, so Leslie's relationship with Bonnie was scandalous. Thus, he hated Queenie for getting in the way of things. "I've already reported this to the police. Let the hotel handle the process of getting her arrested. Either way, we'll be seeing her at the police station." Leslie was not going to show any mercy to Queenie. All he cared about was Bonnie, and he was determined to work with Bonnie to chase Queenie out of the Silverstein family. That way, Bonnie would get an even larger chunk of the family fortune. Queenie did not leave the hotel. She was sitting in the hotel cafe on the top floor. Time and time again, she would get the urge to send the videos out, but she kept talking herself down. It was due to the barrage of texts from her parents. They knew she was not picking up the phone, so they kept texting her and telling her not to share the videos. One of the texts drove Queenie to tears. "Bonnie is your younger sister. You had everything you wanted ever since you were a child, but Bonnie had to suffer out in the world. You're her older sister, so can't you be the bigger person and let her have Leslie?" Queenie's eyes were red as she chuckled bitterly. What did her parents know about how aggrieved she was? Ever since Bonnie came home, she came up with all sorts of ways to snatch everything away, and Queenie had given in every single time. She had compromised wherever she could. She was even willing to give Leslie to Bonnie, but why did she have to steal him away like that? Could they not at least have waited until the engagement had been called off? Queenie could not take the disrespect. Bonnie kept crossing the line and testing her patience. It was one thing to fight openly, but she kept trying to steal things away without their parents knowing. Queenie could not stand it any longer. That was the reason why she wanted to teach them a lesson, but her parents kept urging her now to accept the unfairness of it all, to not be rash, and to not hurt her little sister. Just then, Queenie's phone started ringing. It was an unknown number, and she wondered if it was one of her parents calling. After giving it some thought, she decided to answer. "Hello?" It was a stern female voice that responded, "Is this Queenie Silverstein? We received a report saying that you committed identity fraud at 9 this morning and used someone else's identity to get a hotel room card, which led to a serious breach of privacy. Please turn yourself in at the police station for further investigation. The victim has asked that you apologize and pay compensation, or else they will be pressing charges." Queenie's expression shifted and in her panic, she dropped the call. This morning, she had been so furious that she stormed over to catch them in the act, but she never thought that Leslie would report her to the police. No, she was not going to let herself get caught. She refused to apologize to Bonnie and Leslie. They were the ones who owed her an apology. Just then, her phone beeped. She saw a text from Leslie. "Queenie, if you don't want to go to the police station, we can settle it in private instead. I'll wait for you at the hotel lobby." Queenie's jaw clenched. He was trying to force her to delete the videos. Still, the call from the police did freak her out, so she was willing to settle this privately. However, she was vexed that everything she did would be all for nothing now. Queenie stepped out of the elevator and headed straight for the lobby. As soon as she entered, she saw Leslie sitting on one of the couches, and when he spotted her, he smirked darkly. The moment she was 5 steps away from him, he turned to the 2 security guards beside him and said, "She's the one who lied and took the hotel card this morning. Please apprehend her." Queenie's expression darkened. She never thought that it was just Leslie's trap for her. Immediately, she turned around and ran toward the elevator. "Stop right there," the security guards called out to her. Queenie frantically entered one of the elevators. When she saw the multipurpose hall sign beside the button for the 8th floor, she pressed it right away. Once the elevator arrived on the 8th floor, she dashed out in a panic and looked around. When she saw a sign for the washroom, she rushed over without remembering to check whether it was the men's or women's washroom. She fled into one of the washrooms hoping to hide in a stall. Meanwhile, a man who had just finished using the urinal and had not managed to zip his pants back up yet was suddenly confronted by a woman who barged into the washroom. They stared at each other for a few seconds before he instinctively covered himself and growled, "What are you doing? This is the men's washroom." Queenie was freaking out. Why is it him again? It's the guy whose forehead I banged into this morning, right? Anne. I think I might have seen something I shouldn't have. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. So sorry. It was an accident. Queenie covered her face and rushed out before heading to the women's washroom instead. Behind her, the man cursed, "That damn woman. The hotel's surveillance cameras were not just there for show, and as a hotel with one of the top security systems, they were not about to let a criminal escape. The security guards quickly came up to the 8th floor and one of the hotel attendants stopped outside the women's washroom. "Miss Queenie Silverstein, please cooperate with us." Queenie, who had been hiding inside one of the stalls, sighed. She came out of the stall with a gloomy expression and exited the washroom. The security guards instantly grabbed her arms and pushed her toward the elevators. Along the way, they ran into several hotel guests. This was the first time Queenie had ever experienced being treated like this, and she turned red. The security guards kept a close eye on her out of fear that she would escape again. Regardless of the circumstances, she had indeed pretended to be someone she was not and managed to procure an access card. It was something that damaged the hotel's reputation. At the security office, Maggie arrived with the bodyguards, along with Leslie and Bonnie, who came in hand. When Bonnie saw the disheveled state Queenie was in after all the commotion, she quickly took a photo, while Maggie came over to Queenie with a furious expression and held her hand out. "Give me your phone. Delete everything." "I'm not deleting anything, Mom." Queenie was stubborn when she wanted to be. "I don't care. You're deleting it no matter what. This is something that will damage your sister's reputation." "It's not up to you to decide," Maggie declared sternly without any trace of her usual gentle self. "Queenie, I'm begging you. I know I hurt you, but please don't destroy my reputation." "Do you want me to kneel?" "Because I will." Bonnie made to kneel. However, Maggie turned around and stopped her at once. "What are you doing, Bonnie?" "Do I need to repeat myself, Queenie?" "Yes, I did get engaged to you, but the one I love is Bonnie. Can't you be the bigger person and allow Bonnie and I to be happy together?" Leslie's expression was cold. He was the one who was in the wrong, but he made it seem like he was the victim instead. "I'm not deleting. I refuse." Queenie's eyes were bloodshot. Her mother's hurtful words, her sister's act, and her fiancé's unreasonable demands made her heart turn to stone. Maggie turned pale from anger. She turned to the bodyguards and instructed, "Take her back. Don't let her escape. Leslie, you can go ahead and talk to the hotel. We're family, so let's not get the police involved. It's too much of an embarrassment. Bonnie, come home with me." Maggie reached out and took Bonnie's hand in a great display of motherly love. The air was tense inside the elevator. The bodyguards locked Queenie's hands behind her like she was some kind of criminal. Queenie tried to struggle. "Let go." "I'm sorry, Miss Silverstein." The bodyguards dared not go against Maggie's command. "Ignore her. You can even tie her up if you have to," Maggie called out behind them. The doors to the elevator opposite them opened at the same time, and a tall man stepped out. The security guards kept a close eye on her out of fear that she would escape again. Regardless of the circumstances, she had indeed pretended to be someone she was not and managed to procure an access card. It was something that damaged the hotel's reputation. At the security office, Maggie arrived with the bodyguards, along with Leslie and Bonnie, who came in hand. When Bonnie saw the disheveled state Queenie was in after all the commotion, she quickly took a photo, while Maggie came over to Queenie with a furious expression and held her hand out. "Give me your phone. Delete everything." "I'm not deleting anything, Mom." Queenie was stubborn when she wanted to be. "I don't care. You're deleting it no matter what. This is something that will damage your sister's reputation." "It's not up to you to decide," Maggie declared sternly without any trace of her usual gentle self. "Queenie, I'm begging you. I know I hurt you, but please don't destroy my reputation." "Do you want me to kneel?" "Because I will." Bonnie made to kneel. However, Maggie turned around and stopped her at once. "What are you doing, Bonnie?" Do I need to repeat myself, Queenie? Yes, I did get engaged to you, but the one I love is Bonnie. Can't you be the bigger person and allow Bonnie and I to be happy together? Leslie's expression was cold. He was the one who was in the wrong, but he made it seem like he was the victim instead. I'm not deleting. I refuse. Queenie's eyes were bloodshot. Her mother's hurtful words, her sister's act, and her fiancé's unreasonable demands made her heart turn to stone. Maggie turned pale from anger. She turned to the bodyguards and instructed, "Take her back. Don't let her escape. Leslie, you can go ahead and talk to the hotel. We're family, so let's not get the police involved. It's too much of an embarrassment. Bonnie, come home with me." Maggie reached out and took Bonnie's hand in a great display of motherly love. The air was tense inside the elevator. The bodyguards locked Queenie's hands behind her like she was some kind of criminal. Queenie tried to struggle. "Let go. I'm sorry, Miss Silverstein." The bodyguards dared not go against Maggie's command. "Ignore her. You can even tie her up if you have to," Maggie called out behind them. The doors to the elevator opposite them opened at the same time, and a tall man stepped out. The two pairs of eyes locked gaze. "It's you." Nigel narrowed his eyes in quiet fury. This woman had offended him twice in a row today. Queenie turned scarlet. The memory of seeing him in the washroom earlier flashed across her mind, and she smiled sheepishly. What a coincidence! Bonnie was holding on to her mother's hand, and as soon as she looked up, she could not tear her eyes away. The man who just came out of the elevator opposite them was like a giant magnet that was making it impossible for her to not be attracted to him. "He's so handsome." She saw Queenie and the man staring at each other. They seemed to know each other, and that made her incredibly jealous. In everyone else's eyes, Queenie and Nigel staring at each other for so long, along with Queenie blushing as she greeted him, made it seem like their relationship was not quite so innocent. Maggie was still seething with rage and had not noticed this, but Bonnie was shocked. Was Queenie uninterested in Leslie because she was in love with this handsome man instead? Bonnie flicked her long hair and smirked. She was hell-bent on snatching away anything that belonged to Queenie, including men. Nigel was the first to turn and leave, while Queenie bit her lip in embarrassment and stared after him. "Good morning, Mr. Manson." The hotel manager came forward and greeted Nigel as the 8 receptionists stood up and crossed their hands in front of their waist to send him off. The sight of this left Bonnie thunderstruck. What's going on? Is that man the president of Manson Group? According to what she heard, there was only one heir that was set to inherit the entire Manson Group. Does that mean he's Nigel Manson, the Manson's family heir? Her eyes gleamed as her scheming mind began to fire up again. How did you get so lucky, Queenie? When did you manage to get acquainted with Nigel Manson? If I can steal Leslie away from you, I can steal your new boyfriend too. The Silversteins' family business had been established for over a century. They had a hand in over 10 different industries, including food and beverage, tea, wine, and traditional medicine. The company had shops all over the country and was one of the nation's rising corporations.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.